that. And any suggestions for how to streamline client onboarding and daily, weekly admin? Right. The key thing is, it's sort of in the question. It's just that you have the intention to streamline it. The important thing is to have a system for it, to have some checklist somewhere, to have some process that you do repeatedly that's already written out, so it's not freestyling it every time. That's the most important thing. Like, there's going to be a certain email. It always gets sent. You always send this email. There are, of course, online platforms that will do this for you. So I'll just open it up in the chat. If anyone, you can type in Michelle's name. And if you have any onboarding tools that you found really helpful for your practice, for your work, please feel free to throw them in. But there's lots of them out there. And so there's some of these things where, you know, you get a new client and it automatically kicks them a email at the right time, and you can manage the whole journey of the client with such a thing. In the beginning, do you need it? I don't know. It can make it easier. Sometimes just a little checklist, you know, in Excel that you check, you just use, you put the client's name on top, and you have a series of steps, and you just go through it. But this also gets to the larger topic of administration and maintenance in a business. And the reality is, most of business is maintenance. Like 90% of business is this grind of just the daily stuff. And it takes up more of our time than we think, or it doesn't. And then our business falls apart because we're not, you know, oiling the machine and taking it in for repairs as much as we should. So much of business is maintenance. And there's a video I did. If you just search Tad Hargrave daily, weekly, monthly on YouTube, it'll probably come up. But it's this idea of creating these maintenance checklists. And here's the very short version of it. First of all, I mean, you just take a separate piece of paper, and at the top of one of them write daily, the next one write weekly, the next one write monthly, then quarterly, then annually. So you have 5 different pieces of paper. And then you just sit down, and on the daily one, you think, what do I need to do every single day? It's the basics, you know, in order to make this work. So I'll give you a few. Check your email. Check your spam folder. For the love of God, check your spam folder. You won't even believe the shit that just slips through, and all the angry clients who you don't even know are angry because you never reply to them. But daily, it might be post something on Facebook. It might be daily, reach out to a hub. Daily, prepare for my client sessions. Whatever those things are that you just know you have to do every day. There's no real getting around it if you want to do a good job. And you do the same thing for weekly. What are things I do every week? So maybe weekly is posting on social media. Maybe weekly is you read a book, you go for a walk. I don't know. So these can be personal and also business things, but the things that just every week is at least a bare minimum you got to do. Same with monthly, quarterly, annually. Once you've got those lists, you go through, let's say, the daily list, and you say, okay, kind of realistically, how much time do each of those steps take? They say, check my email. Well, that usually seems to take about 30 minutes. Yeah, 30 minutes. And you think, what about, posting on social media? Well, that's just like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Anyways, and then what you'll have is, let's say, 2 hours of work every day for your daily stuff. And maybe it's just 30 minutes, who knows? But you get that, let's say, 2 hours a day. The next step, so first is you make the list. Second is you figure out the rough timings of it. And then third, you add it up, so you get a total, and then fourth, you schedule it. So you say, okay, if it's 2 hours of stuff and I really got to do this every day, Monday through Friday, you put that in your calendar. I'll just block off 2 hours of time whenever you think you'll be best able to do it. And you do that for the weekly stuff, you do that for the monthly stuff. And you will be, and how about this? Put in time to eat food. There's an idea. Actually schedule meals. And you might even schedule 30 to 60 minutes every day of just open time, where you just put that in the schedule, where nothing gets scheduled there. Once you've done all of this, what you realize, to your horror, is you have very little extra time. But that's good to know, because otherwise we get overly ambitious, and this is where we burn out. Is, you know, someone says, hey, can you do this next week? And we look at our calendar like fools, and it's open. There's nothing there. It's like, oh yeah, it's wide open, but it's not wide open. You still have to do the maintenance, you know. So that's the process I recommend. Anyways, there's a video that goes into it in a bit more detail. But make sure you have that down. And then you just keep revisiting it. One of the things you might add to your quarterly checklist is revisit all these checklists. And are they working? And then also, the other place you want a checklist, that's the kind of administrative maintenance checklist, is for your events, for the things you're promoting. Because my guess is things you're promoting, you've promoted before, or something like it before. I mean, it's not endless, you know. There's your workshops, there's courses you run, all these things. Maybe a sale if you sell products, a certain kind of sale you do every year. And every time you do it, it's not, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's basically the same as last time. But what happens is we never write this down. We just freestyle it. We get to 3 weeks out before the workshop and start, oh, I got to promote it. And we do it in a flailing, spastic, sort of disorganized fashion. And it doesn't work. So instead, what we do is we sit down in advance and we think, okay, what's a plan I could create, like a 90-day promo plan, a prep and promo plan? And what are all the things that I can think of that I should probably be doing to promote it? And just start with that. And then every time you do it, you'll make that list better. You'll cut things that really you don't need, and you'll add things that are helpful. And you schedule it out. So that's the other kind of checklist you want. And I can't even tell you the difference it makes to have a checklist like that, that every time you do an event, you just go through the steps. And here are some steps, just some basic things. Like if you're gonna, how about figure out the venue, schedule the date, create a Facebook event, create your Eventbrite event, send an email to my list to sort of save the date email, post that on social media. How about schedule an email the week before and the day before, you know, all these things. So it's just, you kind of get strategic about it. And the way I would orient to that kind of a prep and promo plan is this. You think, okay, if I want 30 people signed up, I'm going to create a plan that I feel confident could get me 60 people. And then do that plan. You know, you're likely to sell out early, which is ideal. So, Michelle, how does that all land? Any follow-up questions on this?
Yeah, thanks, Tad. It's really helpful, even just to navigate where I am. And it's like the swirling of the lists, but actually like really prioritizing to put it on paper and stop chasing the spirals and just come down and go through the list. And I think if my one follow-up question might be, as someone who's just beginning and is like juggling all these balls, the carts kind of before the horse kind of thing in some areas, is there, I'm almost hesitant to ask, I just need to be schooled here. Is there like a realistic amount of time? Like, would you suggest if you're a new business owner and this is your income and this is what you're doing, once you do these everyday lists, these weekly lists, and you know what that is, perhaps you need to add this amount of hours on top, that kind of thing.
On top of the maintenance stuff?
Yeah, like, because if I look and I'm like, if this is maintenance and then this is the amount of time I'm actually spending one-on-one with clients, maybe add a window of 2 to 4 hours every couple days, because there's these things that I just won't expect to come up. Huge.
Oh man, adding in buffer time is immense. That's a real game changer for people. We often, it's so funny, the unexpected keeps happening and then we don't expect it. It's the miracle. It just keeps occurring. Surprises keep happening. There's a crisis, there's this. So yes, don't schedule every single minute. But you know, the other thing is when you get like a prep and promo checklist for some workshop you're doing, that stuff can be scheduled in too. I mean, you could go through and look at it and just say, okay, this week, you know, kind of week 12, I'll be doing it, and then week 11, I do these things. You could schedule that in too. It makes such a difference when you hit the day and you realize, oh, I actually have time for everything. I thought this through and I've got some buffer time, and oh, something came up and it's okay because I also anticipated the buffer time. But of course, what it means is we have to slow our roll. it's suddenly you realize, oh, I just can't do as many things. If you skip the maintenance, you can do more things. I mean, it's the short term, long term, and sometimes you have to. So, not to knock the short term hustle, sometimes you just stop fixing your car for a while because you can't afford it and you got to just get from somewhere to somewhere. And that's just how it is. But it's not, that's not sustainable. That's not a long term game plan. That's a, I have to at the moment. And the way we get out of that is we just put more and more time into the maintenance as much as we can. We just, it's Stephen Covey goes over this, the 4 quadrants in time management, and, which is worth looking at for everybody, his work on the 4 quadrants. Yeah, worth checking out. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
That was helpful. Thanks, Ted.